Well, what's the crack? And welcome back to the Proud Craic podcast with me, your host, Damien McCaul, proud gay Irishman, pronouns he, him. And I'm very proud today to be inviting a fellow Irishman onto the podcast, a friend of mine who I'm going to tell you all about. Well, in fact, he's going to tell you all about himself in just a moment. But first, I just wanted to thank everybody for the feedback and all the likes and shares and things that you've been doing. I know I've been away for a while. Had to take a bit of a break, but I'm back and better than ever and really excited to be joining you all again for the crack. So speaking of which, who are you and what's the crack?
The crack is 90. So my name's Colum. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a Corkonian living in Glasgow. And I suppose the next couple of minutes we're going to find out a little bit more about me.
Fantastic, yes. I've never heard the phrase Corkonian.
It comes on our passport. It's a very distinct thing from the People's Republic of Cork.
Excellent. You see, you're coming across very passionately Corkonian.
just here.
Ah, very good. I see what you did there. So yes, thank you very much for joining me on this podcast, Colum. Great to have you. And for those of you wondering, what is this podcast? My other podcasts that we've done have had people who've been on representing the companies or charities that they work with. This one isn't about that. This is just two mates having the crack and being proud of their Irishness. Does that sound about right, Colum?
I think so. I hope so. We'll find out as we get through it, I suppose.
So it'll probably not flow as kind of structured as maybe some of the other ones. So we might be talking a lot of shite. But as long as we're having the crack, sure, it's grand, isn't it?
Yes. I refuse to say deadly.
Deadly. Well, before we get into the deadly crack, I thought it would be good for those of you that are listening rather than watching us, to give you an idea of what we'll look like and what you're missing out on. So, as I do every time I describe my t-shirt, so this t-shirt I wore on one of my previous podcasts. It's a black t-shirt with the word proud emblazoned across it. And a different flag from the queer or LGBT plus rainbow for each letter. And in the middle, I've got a badge that I got at Paddy's Day in Newry last year. And it says proud to be Irish with the tricolour across the middle of it and a couple of wee shamrocks on it as well. And then, of course, I'm wearing my proud necklace that I always wear. I've got brown hair, greying around the sides, brown eyes, and that's me. Oh, I'm surrounded by a plethora of flags, which we will reference at some point, and which Colum is very familiar with. You know, I don't go anywhere without a flag. So what about you, Colum? How can people visualize you?
So I'm sitting in a t-shirt. It's Be Yourself. So I got this t-shirt last year for TDOR, so Trans Day of Remembrance. Just really wanted to kind of lend my support to trans friends, family, and just kind of be a bit of a beacon, a bit of a light for them to know that it's a safe space. And behind me, I've got a picture of art. Well, not a picture, but like a geographical formation of Ireland. So showing you the different types of rocks that are there, and kind of love history, love geography. So it kind of brought that together for me. I would say, I'm not sure what color the hair is today. It's kind of going to dark brown at this stage. And that's kind of the setup for me. So just plain simple, bit of Irish and a bit of support for people that are getting it a little bit harder than everyone else at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately an understatement, isn't it? But yes, thank you so much for sharing that. So great. So now you have an idea what we'll look like. I think we should get into the deadly crack as you touched on then. So we're recording this here on the lead up to Paddy's Day, and this is really kind of, all my podcasts are important and they're all good in different ways. And they're great and fabulous in different ways. But this one is even more special, not just because of the special guest, but also because I did my announcement that I would be doing this podcast. I released it on Paddy's Day last year. That's when it put out into the world. Right, my podcast is coming. It took a few months to get going, but since then, this is now going to be I think this will be the seventh episode that we put out. And then we've got another episode after this one as well. So considering I'm doing it all on my own, and kind of figuring it out as I go along, yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that and talk about that. I've got pride in the fact that the Proud Craic podcast is still here and proud. Hashtag stay proud. So yeah. So what any thoughts or feedback on the podcast so far, Colin?
Well, I do know that you love a hashtag. I'm hoping that we don't have any set collapses.
Well,
But it's been interesting. So, when I saw the one about Newry Pride, I think the first thing that I did when I came off it was message him and say, God, that sounds great. I need to come over for the next one. So I haven't really planned much for the holidays or for the summer coming up this year. Going to spend some time in Ireland, I think, and go and visit
fun.
Killarney. So hopefully, maybe I'll make a couple of prides up Newry, that kind of way, and get around the place. So probably, for me, it was more about kind of listening to different stories and kind of reminds me of maybe why I got involved in different networks and different things, because people are talking about what was passionate for them. And then the other side of me, which is like traveling, going around chatting it to people, I thought maybe I should go to this pride, or maybe I should go to that pride. And so that's probably it for me. Kind of thinking, what the story was about people.
No, thanks very much. I'm just going back to do you know what? That's actually brilliant feedback because as much as I am proud of the podcast myself, this isn't about me. This is about me platforming other people so they can share their voices and share their stories and hopefully inspire us all to be better allies in the world. So the fact that that's your main takeaway from it is brilliant. So thank you very much. We didn't plan this, but that's a beautiful segue into what a lot of this episode's going to be about. Both yourself and myself, we have lived away for. I definitely have lived away from Ireland for the majority of my adult life. What about yourself? How long have you lived away?
So I've lived more in Scotland than I have in Ireland.
There you go. So yeah. So I just thought, well, I thought it'd be great crack to just talk about what it's like to be part of the diaspora, basically Irish people that are no longer living at home. Now, yes, I've returned to home, so you're the one that still has to come back, Colum. So hint, hint. So, sorry, I was attacking you there out of the blue.
I'll pop back for
But to
holidays
that
and stuff,
point,
but maybe
actually,
I might go
it's
somewhere warmer.
oh, okay, right, okay, that's fair enough. um, that's actually a good lead into my first question then. So, do you see yourself returning to Ireland at any stage?
Yeah, so I did think about going back a couple of years ago, and then a whole series of events happened, that kind of laid waste to that. So, I do eventually plan on going home. But I do also plan on maybe getting to some, sharing some time with maybe Spain or Portugal. So much to the fact that actually a couple of years ago, I went back to college to to brush up on my Spanish, so I didn't forget about it. So I did a couple, maybe 9 months in college during the winter, just brushing up my Spanish. Um,
Uh-huh.
I will definitely. So I'm 46 this year. I'm hoping maybe I've only 11 years or 12 years left in work, and then I will definitely be trying to set some anchors back in Ireland.
Fantastic. I was away 22, no, 20, roughly 21. No, it was 22 because to your point, I was away the same amount of time that I was not away, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
literally half my life was living in Ireland and half was away from Ireland. Um, I'm going to ask you a bit more about your time in Scotland coming up.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to just give everybody who wasn't aware a bit of the background to my own journey then when I left. If you've listened to previous podcasts, so Colum touched on the Newry Pride podcast. So in that, I shared my coming out story and why I moved away. But for those of you that haven't been listening or watching, there's some homework for you. Go do it. It's the first ever episode. The fabulous Jenny Dean and hear all about Newry Pride. It's wonderful. But as a brief synopsis, I basically moved away because I couldn't be myself. I couldn't come out. So I was in the closet and I just didn't see it as an option to come out whilst I was living in Ireland. So Queer as Folk was on at the time. And yeah, it's not rocket science. I just thought, yeah, that looks like where I can be myself. So I want to go there. And that was on Canal Street in Manchester. So I moved to Manchester. Um, at the time, I had said that, oh, I couldn't really afford to move to London, so I'll move to Manchester instead, kind of making it out like it was like it's a second, option. Um, now to be fair, I probably couldn't have afforded to move to London anyway. But when I moved to Manchester, it was wonderful. I fell in love with the place. It's still one of my favorite places to be. And yeah, it's just fabulous. And my best friend still lives there as well, so I get to visit it regularly, and yeah, it's fantastic. Um, but yeah, I moved there, stayed there for about 10 years, and worked for the bank and did a lot of their Pride stuff. And I genuinely, my confidence grew because I was around other gay people and queer people. And then I came out a few years after I was away. And then yeah, I love being myself, and being able to be myself. And so a large part of my kind of being part of the diaspora was because I just wanted to be myself and just didn't see how else I could do that. Um, and then when I moved away, had a wonderful time. Then a couple of things happened in between, but fast forward to most recently, had the opportunity to live and work in Scotland, and that's where I met yourself. And that was through me attending an Out in Glasgow event. Would you like to talk a bit about that, about how we first met and what exactly is Out in Glasgow?
So out in Glasgow was it's like a network for networks, right? So the idea was to take smaller groups from different networks, whether it was public sector, private sector, and um, give pool the group so that if there was a small network in each company or whatever it was, that they could come together, network as a group, share best practice, meet people, and bring in other people to share their experiences. Whether so there were some great events where it was pre-marriage or equal rights or civil partnership where people were talking and learning about how to protect themselves financially, long-term relationships. There was people in from the Alzheimer's Society. There was lots of different people, different stories, and learning different things. So it was really to kind of coalesce that kind of pool together. It was building on what other networks had done, maybe in bigger centres. So there was in London at the time, there was an interbank. So it was all the banks were able to kind of network together, but there just wasn't that kind of size of networks and companies in Scotland at the time.
Okay.
So we kind of set up the Out in Glasgow event, and worked with different organizations, and a lot of them were financial institutions, but there was a lot of non-financial as well, which was quite good, and that ran for a couple of years, um, and I loved it. It was like, I think it was uh, on a Thursday night. I think it was one of the reasons I used to go out. And it's one of the reasons, it's actually at one of those events that I bumped into the rugby guys and then got stuck involved in that. And so there was loads of different networking opportunities and meeting different people, and a lot of stuff around, working with different charities. So it was really, really good. It was actually a
Yeah,
great time to be kicking about.
it was wonderful. I stumbled across it, so to speak, when I moved to Edinburgh to do a job in the bank. And I just was looking for the LGBT network, what was happening in the Scotland area. And I saw you guys promoting the out in Glasgow as one of the main sponsors of it. And I went along, and yeah, I echo every single thing you said. It was just really refreshing to hear other people being themselves in a professional environment, but just networking and having the crack and just meeting new people. So much so that yourself and Barry Kearns inspired me to set up out in Edinburgh. So there had been different versions of that before, I think, or rumblings of it, but I decided to kind of take it on and give it a go. And I launched that, did that for about a year and a half, and it was wonderful for me. And it did very much what you just said about Glasgow. That happened to me in Edinburgh. And I got to meet loads of local charities, local businesses, local networks, different employee resource groups. I made loads of friends. I discovered loads of different parts of Edinburgh that I wasn't aware of. And it really enhanced my kind of like being able to kind of haggle and convince people and, try and convince people to give us your bar a night a week. And they were like, oh no, we'll have to charge you. And then you had to think on your feet and go, well, actually, no, if we bring in so much money, then could we have it? No. And that's not something I ever thought I would be doing when I moved to Scotland. It would be like haggling with local barmen or bar managers to see if I could have their space for free, so I could put on some big gay event once or twice a month. So so yeah, I really found myself growing from doing something that I enjoyed, but it actually ended up helping me as a person. I really enjoyed it. It was great. And then we started hanging out and having the crack as well. And then we went to many a pride, whether it be Glasgow or Edinburgh, and the rest is history. Still mates to this day, but you're over in the Scotland and I'm over here in the Ireland. Or if you want to point out roughly where I am on your map, for those of you watching, you can maybe see if you can figure it out. Up a bit.
There.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'm right there, yeah. So yes, so we're still good friends and we still can catch up. And I think it's great that we can have the crack on even doing something like this, doing something that we both enjoy, because from previous chats that we've had, I know you're now doing your own podcast version or your own kind of corporate podcast. Would that be right to say? You don't need to go into the details of it, but would it be fair to say you're also a podcast host?
Yes, so I do internal leadership kind of interviews. So it's uh, i- interviewing people to kind of give give their insight as a person rather than what they do for a day-to-day role. So, what's their background? What have they done? Was this the job that that they set out to do when they were growing up? That kind of stuff. So just to kind of give it a flavor of who the person is.
Yeah,
Um, so it's because you only ever, particularly in a work environment, you only ever see what's presented to you. It's the same in real life, right? It's not till you actually break, find something common and then start talking about it, and then you expand the relationship, or you get to understand who the person is outside of work, so, or outside of whatever environment you meet them in. I mean, my journey to getting into LGBT networks was accidental in a way, right? My first Pride that I went on was Edinburgh Pride because I got involved in the bank's network, and I thought, well, maybe we should do something about attending a Pride. And I went off to Edinburgh and did a bit of a recce, and I thought, yeah, we can do this. We can turn up and do something. And it was as kind of as simple as getting a bunch of people together and saying, let's just go. Let's get a bunch of t-shirts and let's just head off. Um, and it's from little things like that people start to build a network. They find themselves and discover things. And I totally came to this as as I say, as an accident. I was very involved in raising funds for other charities, and so did a lot of fundraising for charities in Africa, raising education for people, and had gone out a couple of times um, to support. And while I was doing it, I was doing up a respite centre with another bunch of people uh, in Glasgow, and as I was painting a floor, someone said, "Oh, would you ever think about I'm in this network in the brand in the I'm in the LGBT network, and could you come along and give us some help doing some of these fundraising things that you do? And
Hmm.
one thing led to another, and I got involved in it. So it came as a total different thing. And I was one of those. Um, there was a campaign that Stonewall had at the time, which was "That's so," or "He's gay, get over it," or "He's so gay," or something, "Get over it." And that would have been the language that I would have used at the time. Totally inappropriate, as I would say now, but that was the kind of where I kind of grew up, and where I came to being a queer person was uh, f- from the society that was around at the time. So it
So
was
tell me
quite a
this:
journey.
when you left, were you in when you left Ireland? Were you in the closet?
No, so I'd come out. I wouldn't say I'd come out. I'd kind of fallen out. Um, so it wasn't a decision. I just kind of fell out of the closet. Then uh, I went to Belfast for the summer, and to kind of see, is this someplace for me, somewhere different? And it wasn't somewhere for me. And I thought I'll just move somewhere else quickly, because I was thinking of like studying. So I ended up in Glasgow. Um, and I think I was that kind of classic. I went back into the closet until I understood who I was dealing with.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like I was perpetually coming out of the closet for years and years. Um, and it still happens sometimes to this day. So I was at an event, and it was a queer literary festival up in Pitlochry. And I actually was doing the check myself. I was thinking, can I be bothered telling this person that I'm here, I'm queer, this is my husband? And then I thought, you're actually in a queer environment here. It turns out the people I were talking to were lesbians. But, it's still, it's in the back of my head
Yeah.
sometimes. And that you're like, oh, can I be bothered going through this coming out? Because
Yeah.
there's that thought, I think, for non-LGBT people, non-queer people, that you come out once and that's it, but it's a perpetual thing forever.
Yeah. There's no
That
idea.
that you do, there's no let up in it. Um, yeah, it's weird.
Interesting. Well, what I'd do that what I thought we'd do is we would end this episode just sharing maybe one anecdote about our Irishness when we were abroad. And then I thought we could maybe explore that a bit more and about our Irish identity in the second episode. And then talk about our usual dinner party who would like to bring along to that as well. Um, so would you like me to go first, or do you have like an Irishness thing that happened to you when you that
It's
stands out to you that
it's
you know
not
that you
really an
remember?
Irish thing. It's something that I do without realizing I do it, and I have a feeling a lot of people do it. I don't know. People can maybe who are watching and listening can maybe give you some comments, right? But I have a habit of slipping into Irish words when I'm talking to people, or when. So I might say I'm off to the letters.
All
For
right.
those who don't speak Irish, that's I'm off to the
Yeah.
toilet, right? So it's like, and I just say it, or words will just come to me in Irish, and I'll say it, and when I was speaking to my team in work, then I realized they haven't a clue what I'm talking about, because you can see their face kind of, and to them it probably sounds like a mumble, but no, I've just slipped into a different language. So I think I'm guilty of doing that quite a lot. Is one thing, or giving cultural references that they wouldn't get, and they might only get it because they've watched Father Taylor, they've watched the Dairy Girls or something. But other than that, if it's not been covered in those, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, yes, I can empathize. Yeah, I know what you mean. Um, I don't know much Irish, so I haven't had the same issue. Well, not sure how well it did in Christian Brothers School. I don't think I was I don't think I would have been too proud of the results I got with my Irish lessons. So but anyway, however, I'm trying to reclaim it and big it up. And I've been seeing an ad on telly recently, and it's some girl, and I think it must be for teenage E or something. And she's sitting in. She goes to sit. She's on the phone, and she goes to sit down on a bench in the park, and then she starts talking Irish, and she's talking Irish, and she doesn't. She just presumes anybody around her isn't speaking Irish, so she sits down, and then she starts saying to her friend on the phone, like in Irish, "Oh my God, this really hot guy's just sat down beside me." And she's like, "Oh, stop," and all that. And she goes, "No, he's absolutely smoking hot." And then it shows you him watching Tina G or something on his phone, like an Irish speaking channel. And then he looks at her and she's like mortified. And so yeah, so I love stuff like that because it's just rather than it being like a big deal about like, we need to be making sure that it's mandatory that people learn Irish and all that there. No, I just think look, remind people that, of the Irish language, you can approach it any way you want and get as involved as you want. But in day to day life, you'd be pleasantly surprised that a lot of people know more than you'd realize.
Yeah, and talking about Irish, like Scots Gaelic is I can read that for most parts, and at the first time I ever came to Glasgow, I didn't even know that they had like Scots Gaelic, right? So that's 20 whatever years ago, and I got into Queen Street, and it was in it said faulty destroyed by ringing or something, and I just said it to the person I was with, and they said how do you speak Gaelic, and I was like, oh, I think you call it Gaelic. It was totally I didn't understand that there was a difference here, and I did work with someone years ago who would speak to me in Scots Gaelic and then would want me to speak back in Irish. um and some of the words are quite similar, but the pronunciations can be quite different,
Mm,
which kind of bring in the accents. You understand maybe where the accents are coming from between the Irish and the Scots.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And also, like, people always talk about the amount of accents there is across, like, Britain and Ireland, but they think just because Ireland's like a smaller island that, oh, there'll not be that much variation in the accents. Little do they know, eh?
Little do they know. I know my accent. I've never really had a particular strong Cork accent, um, and when I come around here, they they do not understand what the Cork accent is, and I just say Roy Keane, and they think, "Oh, you don't sound like him."
Yeah, because my mom's got a couple of friends and they're from Cork, and the the woman, she's very sing-songy, beautiful Cork accent. Absolutely, you'd see it in a movie type accent. Um, and then her husband, again, wonderful man, really really nice. And unfortunately, his is more of kind of harder to understand Cork accent, shall we say? I'm not going to insult him by trying to do it, but
Uh,
it's like even in Scotland when I was working in Scotland in Edinburgh, there was people from like far I don't know up in the Highlands or whatever that were down for the day, and they'd be talking. And in some ways, even though Scottish and Irish are completely different, or as you were saying, there's some similarities with the Gaelic and all that. Um, I felt I had the same feeling that I had when I was speaking to this man from Cork, that I had speaking to this man from the Highlands. I was like, sorry, what?
yeah, a few people did think. One of the girls asked me once, like, "Where in Orkney am I from?" I said, "What?" And then I heard the accent, and I thought, "Oh, okay, maybe I can get where she came from."
Yeah, and one thing that I think it would be good to kind of round this episode off talking about accents because I know, and I'm sure you do as well, that what we have to do is we have to adapt our accents, or anglify it, or whatever you want to put it, in order for us to even just get by day to day. Um, but I had to do mine very much so when I joined the bank years and years ago, because I was on a call center and I got fed up of being called Jamie. so, so I had to, instead of saying my name's Damien, I had to go Damien, and it felt like really English or something saying it.
Mhm.
And then the other one, which I love, so when I was in England, I had to go as in the number, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I had to go like that. And in my head, it just sounds like really posh, like 8. But I moved back to Ireland, moved back home, and then 8 came out the way that I know 8 comes out. And then when I moved to Scotland, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Everybody says 8, they don't say 8.
I do
I
notice when
love
I
it.
when I use a word I haven't used for years that this real Cork accent comes out
Oh,
that I haven't heard for a while. But also when I am back in Ireland, I do have to check the language because there's a lot of Ouijaisms. There's a lot of stuff that they say in
yeah.
Glasgow, particularly that they don't say or use elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's some. I did think my dad was going deaf for a while. Now he has gone deaf, but I did think he was going deaf about 15 years ago. But it just turned out I was using so much Scottish slang that he kept saying "pardon, pardon."
It's awful polite of him. I would have
Because
said another one.
yeah, well, I said I did say to my mother, and she then started saying "pardon" as well. I thought it's me.
I'm the problem. Excellent. Well, we could talk all day about accents and about how we had to adjust them in order to just get by and be understood. But I think we're going to round up this episode. So thanks very much, Colum. I have very much enjoyed the crack. I hope you have done so yourself.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Well, don't go anywhere because he'll be joining me again for the next episode. And the same to my listeners and watchers. I still keep saying watchers. It sounds so creepy. It's viewers, isn't it? I'm still trying to multitask to understand that people could be either listening or watching. I think I just need to decide that people are just listening. It just makes it easier and less creepy when I call them other things. So anyway, to the people that are listening or watching this podcast, please join me again for the crack. And remember, stay proud.